chairperson of the governing body, Professor Rajni Abi, Principal Professor Vijay Lakshmi Nanda, Director of the National Institute of Urban Affairs, Professor Devolina Kundu, Founder, Convener of the Urban Studies and Research Center, Professor Monica Vij, distinguished guests, students and members of the fraternity. You might well ask me why I am here, and the explanation could reside in the fact that I have been Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs for 7 years, and therefore there is an umbilical link between what you are going to focus on in the Center for Urban Studies and Research. That could be one explanation. Another explanation could be that I am delighted that finally one part of an educational system which I had the privilege of being associated with, Delhi University, one of the colleges has thought it fit to set up such a research center. I can share with you that in the last 7 years, not at the college level but at the university level, this has occupied our attention. And I'm glad that we are beginning to succeed in many ways. Another reason I could be here is that it's an outstanding college, and I want to share a little secret with you. You referred to the book Delhi University at 100. So when the publishers first approached me and asked me to put together that book, which meant I had the freedom to select the possible contributors, to edit the book, and so on, I thought it would be a daunting task. But when I compiled a list of products of this university whom I personally knew, it took me by surprise, because of the first 15 I approached, 13 of them agreed. And the 14th one was the one who wrote the foreword, the famous actor Amitabh Bachchan ji. So I sent him a little WhatsApp message, and he sent me a notice back saying, are you sure I'm the right person to write an article in this book? I said, why? He said, I studied at Kirorimal College, and my only association with Miranda House was outside the back gate. And he said I could put together my thoughts, but I thought this is an academic volume. So as I just put together some thoughts, and I can tell you it's so refreshing, and I just decided to use his thoughts as the foreword, and that's what makes that book readable. But amongst the other contributors are the current Chief Justice, and then it's a list of, who's who. I must compliment Miranda House. Last 7 years, you have ranked between 2017 and 23 as the All India Rank 1. I'm very happy, and I'm unmindful of the fact that the college that you beat to first position was my own college, Hindu College. And I'm even happier that St. Stephen's College doesn't figure anywhere there, since I taught there for a year. Now, Miranda House is accredited with grade A++ by the National Assessment and Accreditation Council. In more ways than one, your motto, learning through self-education, I think is what modern education is all about. And I agree with Professor Kundu that you are indeed fortunate that you have an outstanding faculty. And I think I keep asking some very basic questions wherever I go. When I joined the Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry and I went to Indore, which was ranked as the cleanest city in India, I asked them what makes for this success. Somebody told me that, what you need is a good mayor, you need a good municipal commissioner, and you need perhaps a good chief minister. So I take it that a good chief minister is a given, because if the state is not well administered. But it's a combination. So fraternity, faculty, yes, students, but more than that, the academic value system and environment that you put together. And I think Miranda House is a lot to be proud of, and my heartiest congratulations. Let me now come to the subject which you asked me to speak on. And I can share with you that there are some things about the urban space which are easily understood, and there are others which are not so easy to understand. One, that for at least the bulk of the period between 2014 and before that 1947, we did not give sufficient importance to the urban space. Why do I say that? Normally in other audiences, with other audiences, I use stronger words, that we subjected the urban space to neglect, and sometimes even to criminal neglect. There are a variety of reasons. When we became an independent country in 1947, only 17% of India lived in urban spaces. The first census that we have of 1951 shows 17% people living in urban areas. By about 2050, if I'm not mistaken, you will have a situation in which 50% of India's population, about 870 million plus, will live in our cities and towns, according to the estimation of the UN. But more than that, 75% of our GDP will come from the urban space. Now, if your cities are as important as they are, then surely it stands to reason that many years earlier you should have seen that importance. But I think what happened is that there was a natural inclination to focus and prioritize the rural space. And that is what led to this somewhat belated recognition of the importance of the urban space. And it's not surprising that if you read the academic literature on this subject, especially in the West, they describe India as a reluctant urbanizer. And a reluctant urbanizer because they said that, whatever urbanization is taking place autonomously. In other words, there are demographic shifts from the rural, semi-rural to the urban and so on. And that the state is perhaps not as conscious of what needs to be done in order to provide the wherewithal and the ecosystem to accommodate a growing urban population. That is perhaps what explains many of the startling revelations that I found when I joined the Housing and Urban Affairs Minister in 2017. One, that in 2014, the total amount of waste that we were reprocessing was only about 15%. Now it's unbelievable that if you produce 100 tons of waste, only 15 tons is being properly reprocessed. And I'm very happy to inform you that we've taken that figure up from 15% to about 78%. And I think within the next 2 years, we will have 100% of the waste that we produce recycled. We've already managed 100% segregation at the point of production, which means wet waste and dry waste. And we are now in the process of addressing the legacy dump sites, like you have in Gazipur, like you have in Mumbai. And I think that is moving. Another startling statistic which I find is that in the 10 years between 2004 and 14, if you take all the expenditure that the central government incurred and the state governments incurred, put it together on all the schemes of the two, the total spend was only 1,78,000 crores. Between 57, I'm adding the state share. My press advisor is saying it's even less. No, I'm being generous, I'm adding the state share also. Today, we have this happy situation that if you take from 2014 to 2023, I've got a booklet along, hard copy, and I'll be happy to leave some copies here for those of you who are interested. That urban spend from the central government itself has gone up 11 times, from 1,57,000 crores, which was the earlier one, to over 18 or 19 lakh crores. So that is the difference that is there. Reference was made to, I think, affordable housing, but if you look at Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, well, let me start with the building of toilets. You build 11 crore toilets, who benefits? The girl child. It helps the dignity of the girl child. If you build Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, we've sanctioned 4 crore. Who is the title holder? The lady of the house. So 71% of the homes are of, in the name of the lady of the house or co-jointly. Then similarly, if you take all the other schemes, Smart Cities Mission, what is one of the great tangible benefits which grows out of the Smart Cities Mission? Clearly, security for women. Why am I mentioning this? Because I think in one of your statements you mentioned gender and the urban space. I think one of you were also mentioning how to make the campus safer. There's all best experience in learning is all documented there. When it happened, what was the situation before or after? Rajiv, give me if you have an English copy of that book. I'll just show it to you. No, give it to me. So what we do is that we have a portal and we have real-time data, but we actually look at a before and after picture. Cities with metro rail network. Earlier it was this, now what is it? Now I'll just give you this one figure. 2004 and 14, 1,78,000 crore, all the urban expenditure. From 2014 onwards, it's 18,07,101 crores. It's 11 times. So we've done that for every scheme. I'll give you another startling statistics. People say that, we are very poor people living in urban spaces. I don't think it's poor people living in urban spaces. I say the poor policies of those in charge which have made the mess. I'll give you one example which is very, very telling in a way. Why do people come to the urban space? Because they're looking for jobs. That is the very definition of what a developing country is. Because if the rural space, which means agriculture, made the contribution to the GDP, which will keep the people there, they would not need to move. So they come and they find, I don't like using the word slums, they settle down in informal settlements. Wherever there is work, they will set up a JJ colony or etc. So shouldn't it be the responsibility of people who are devising policies to make sure that there is affordable housing? But one statistic, between 2004 and 14, a total of 13 lakh approvals were given for affordable housing under JNURM, that is the Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission, and only 8 lakh were built. You compare that with 2014 to now, 4 lakhs. From 8 lakhs to 4 lakhs. 8 lakhs to 4 crores. So it's a sea change. Equally, if you look at urban transport, we started the metro system sometime in 2002. And today we have 906 kilometers of functioning metro. Another 939. We are the 5th largest metro system in the world. But in the next 2 years, we will become the 2nd largest because we will overtake China and Korea and the United States. Because the United States has 1,560 kilometers, but they've already saturated. They've built all the metros they needed to. Whereas in India, this is work in progress. So, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, building of toilets, waste reprocessing, affordable housing. Now, urban space is not just about you and me. Urban space is about the more vulnerable sections of society. And I think the Prime Minister's conceptualization of the Swanidhi scheme, at the height of the pandemic, forgive me, I don't want to get personal, but I think the teaching faculty of the university still got their salaries. Students, no matter where they came from, where unless you were worried about the pandemic, you still continued to stay there and your kitchens were functioning. But during the economic lockdown, the section which was the most adversely hit were the street vendors, because they go to moneylenders to borrow for their next day's wares. And the moneylenders were sharks, lending at 18%, and those poor guys took the money and did not know how to earn it. They took the loan. So all of them were heavily in debt. And the Prime Minister conceptualized the Swanidhi scheme. We rolled it out very quickly. And I'm very happy to inform you that the first loan of 10,000, most of them utilized to pay back the loans that they had incurred. Then the next loan of 20,000, they started they became in a microfinance scheme, they became micro entrepreneurs, they became beneficiaries of the other urban schemes of the government. And by the time they got the third loan, today, I think if figure serves me right, I don't know, Rajiv, 68 lakh beneficiaries, street vendors have become beneficiaries. The government has already rolled out, last figure I remember, 10,700 crores to them. And most of it they utilize without any collateral. You just have to have a certificate that you are a street vendor. Many people have pakka shops, they wouldn't qualify. Others, and throughout the country, it's one of the most successful schemes. So if you look at the urban space overall, I don't intend taking more time, but I think there was some speculation on what are the areas you could research. Women's safety is one area. One of you talked about finance. One of the difficulties I had when I just joined this ministry is that the psychology of the average Indian urban administrator, and I meant the urban local bodies, was that, "Arey bhai, chunav ladna ye to hamare hi log hain." In other words, don't go out of your way to take municipal taxes, etc., and it's part of one happy accommodation. We changed that. Today, several of our urban local bodies have actually floated municipal bonds. I don't remember the figure, about 4,000 crores. Several urban local bodies have, but we changed other things. We are producing a lot of engineers from our institutions. They complain that they don't have job experience, and they find that many of them are of uneven educational output, so jobs are not easy to come by. I started a scheme called Tulip, where you take in engineering graduates and you attach them to the urban local bodies. They pick up experience, the urban local body benefits from their education, and it's a happy situation. Everybody's raving about the scheme. Equally, we found in the area of skills that a lot of people would tell me that if I advertise an unskilled or a semi-skilled job, I get tens of thousands of applications. Whereas if the skill level goes up a little, the number of applications goes down. So I said there's something wrong here. What you should do is that the bigger building companies along with the academic institutions, you should now announce that you will take on people, give them 15% of classroom interaction, and then put them on the side so that they can also score their. Things are changing. So there is a fantastic amount of change taking place on the urban sphere. I think educational institution like this, with its established areas of academic excellence, you could contribute. There are so many things to choose from. I had much more speaking notes, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave copies of this Transforming the Urban Landscape here. And I'm sure at some stage when you have done your work, I'd be very happy after the elections. I'm reasonably sure that we are coming back for 5 years. But I was telling you, one of the reasons I did not cite, I said, one of the reasons is that it's always more instructive from my point of view speaking to younger people, including those who are first-time voters. Because, it's all very well to say by 2047 we will be a developed nation or a Viksit Bharat. But my generation, the ladies sitting here are very young, they'll be around for a long time. But I'm talking about my generation, as in my generation. Who are the real heirs of Viksit Bharat? You guys. Why? Because I don't know what the average age here is, 20? So we are in 2024. By 2047, most of you will be 42 or 43 years old. And that's your prime of life. So what the shape that Viksit Bharat takes, I can tell you, the size of the GDP according to Ernst & Young will be $40 trillion. If that is the rate, I don't know where the others. You will be not only the top 3 economies within 5 years, but we will at one stage, if this goes and there are no surprise moments coming at us, you will be vying for number 2 position also. And the technology, the innovation. I hosted a breakfast for Bill Gates. My wife and I hosted with some young entrepreneurs, and we were talking. Look at how the others see us. Apart from our own self-confidence, the perception of others if whether you are in private equity, whether you are in clean energy or green energy, as I deal with, everybody is looking to India. Why? Your rate of energy consumption is 3 times higher than the global average. Today you have 6 crore people, 60 million people going to the petrol pump, filling up every day. And those people are also making a transition from fossil fuels to biofuels. We had a target of 20% blending by 2030. We're going to do it by 2025. And so the point I'm making is India is the happening place. The urban space is central to that. I gave you a figure of, when 850 million people live, 95% of the GDP is going to come from the urban space. So surely people engaged in academic pursuits should be looking at that, factoring it in, and preparing both recommendations and roadmap for a completely new experience which is coming. Thank you very much for listening to me. As I said, this could have been a longer interactive session, but I started very early today and I've got a long number of meetings. So thank you very much and all the best.